Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're unpacking your sources again.
That's it.
Pull out those critical insights, those, surprising connections shaping Canada right now.
And our mission, really, is to cut through the noise, distill what's most important, and help you understand the key nuggets for the material you've shared with us.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're starting today with some, frankly, pretty shocking developments around the Hockey Canada sexual assault case. The one from London, Ontario, involving those 5 former World Junior players. McLeod, Hart, Formenton, Dubé, and Foote, related to that alleged incident back in 2018.
Yes, and what's really standing out now is how new court documents are exposing some pretty significant police missteps.
Missteps? How so?
Well, we're talking about a clear lack of what they call trauma-informed procedures.
Okay, trauma-informed.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
It means practices designed to, avoid re-traumatizing victims, ensuring sensitivity. And there was also a failure to assign a female investigator when requested. And this isn't just about this one case, sadly. It really highlights these broader systemic failures within investigations. Generally, it raises serious questions about accountability.
Yeah, and about public trust in the justice system, too.
Exactly. For you, this means understanding how these deep institutional failures can really impact someone's ability to even seek justice and, well, the overall integrity of the process.
Okay, so from those internal challenges, let's pivot to another really pressing domestic issue: the environment. The 2025 wildfire season?
Yeah.
It just keeps going, doesn't it?
It really does. It's quite stark. We're looking at nearly 2,000 active fires burning across, multiple provinces: Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Quebec, Newfoundland, and Labrador.
It's coast to coast almost.
Pretty much. And tragically, authorities are reporting 2 deaths in Manitoba and over 40,000 people evacuated so far. Plus all the smoke disrupting air quality, especially in eastern Canada.
And on top of the fires, there's this extreme heat.
Yeah, compounded by this dangerous heat dome that's bringing extreme temperatures to Ontario and Quebec. Environment Canada's issued warnings.
A heat dome? That's basically trapped hot air, right? Making heat waves worse.
Precisely. It traps hot air over an area, leading to these prolonged, intense heat waves. They pose significant health risks and strain infrastructure. It really underscores the huge public safety and environmental challenges we're facing.
And it's against this backdrop, all these internal pressures, that Canada's also looking outward. Let's talk about its evolving role internationally, starting with the response to recent U.S. actions in the Middle East.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you've got Prime Minister Mark Carney and Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand leading these diplomatic calls for de-escalation.
De-escalation after what specifically?
After those U.S. B-2 stealth bomber airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Using B-2s, those long-range strategic bombers, well, that signals a pretty significant escalation.
So Canada's urging restraint.
Yes. Carney's even heading to an EU summit to really push for de-escalation and coordinated transatlantic security efforts, emphasizing diplomacy in a really volatile region.
Right.
It puts Canada in an interesting, maybe even a mediating role.
And speaking of international roles, what about defense spending? That conversation keeps coming up at major summits. What makes this discussion so compelling is that tension between global security needs and Canada's own economic situation.
Absolutely. And this raises a really important question for Canada. At the NATO summit in The Hague and the EU-Canada summit in Brussels, the aim is to increase defense contributions.
Targeting that 2% of GDP mark.
Targeting at least 2% of GDP, yeah. Gross domestic product, the total value of goods and services. And discussions also include NATO's sort of newer goal to raise collective defense even higher to 3.5% of GDP, plus deepening EU-Canada procurement ties.
So 2% is the target, maybe more down the line. What's the takeaway for us?
Well, the real takeaway here is the tightrope Canada's walking. Committing to these global security targets, which is a big step up, while also dealing with domestic economic pressures.
Like the ones we just talked about: environment, justice system impacts.
Exactly. It forces a tough conversation about trade-offs, Where does this increased defense money come from? What other priorities, maybe social programs or environmental work, might have to be scaled back? It's a difficult balance.
So, wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you, listening? We've covered quite a bit, from deep systemic issues in our justice system
Uh-huh.
to these profound environmental challenges like wildfires and heat domes,
Yeah.
and Canada's increasingly active and complex role in global security and diplomacy.
I think the overarching theme, really, across all these diverse topics is Canada's ongoing adaptation,
Mm.
how it's responding to a world that's changing incredibly rapidly.
So something for you to consider is, how do all these interconnected issues, the domestic, the international, the environmental, how do they shape not just the perception of Canada's priorities, both here and abroad, but how might they actually influence the daily lives and the future prospects of everyone living here?